Yo, what's happening? This your man Mike D. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great day and making things happen as always. But I had a thought today, and something just kind of ran through my mind. And it was kind of added as it pertains to kind of like Valentine's Day, which is rolling up this week. So fellas, get on it. Ladies, get on it. Okay. But I was thinking about as it pertains to Valentine's Day and your spouse and, hanging out and doing your thing together, I was thinking about examples that we can model in regards to good relationships. So, examples that we can model as it pertains to good relationships. And one of the things that came to mind, I don't know why this thing randomly popped up, but one thing came to mind was really good service at a restaurant. Really good service at a restaurant. Subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. More where this came from, as well as my podcast, Black Fathers Now. But this is just a thought process. How do we model, good service, great service, as it pertains to our relationships? And I thought about the concept of like a really good waiter, right? Like if you've been to a restaurant and that waiter is like awesome, like real talk awesome, you leave there and you're just like, yo, this experience was awesome, right? You don't mind tipping extra and doing this and doing that. Now, granted, a lot of them might just be doing it for the tips, right? Which is fine. That's part of their gig. But the thing is, those that go above and beyond is more than just the tip. It's something else there. But a lot of the things that you can learn from them and how they operate and how they serve can legitimately be applied to your relationship. Again, I'm giving some free game prior to Valentine's Day. Now, I guess the thing is, am I going to apply this myself? Time will tell. And then post Valentine's Day, actually next Monday, I have an interview dropping with relationship expert Troy Spry, and it's fire. So it's some good stuff to follow up Valentine's Day, but that's dropping next Monday. But today I wanted to hit you with a few tips that you can learn from a great waiter at a restaurant as it pertains to your relationship. So think about this. Whenever you go into a restaurant, one of the first things that happens, if they're really good at what they do, is you get some type of pleasant greeting. It's interesting, right? I know that's simple and we tend to overlook it, but when you have a really good example and you juxtapose that to a bad example, the good one tends to stand out. But typically with a really good waiter, the greeting is awesome. It's always a pleasant greeting. Depending on the vibe of the spot, they always kind of get you in the mood for, if it's like some old romantic, sexy vibe, they're kind of evoking that in how they communicate. If it's something that's kind of hype or fully experiential, so to speak, they evoke that. Whatever it is, they help you to kind of get in the mood. But long story short, it's always a pleasant greeting. Like the best waiters always start off, they basically set the tone. So when we think about a waiter doing that in a restaurant, let's think about how we interact with our spouse. Is it a pleasant greeting? Is it something that, are we setting the tone for our interactions for the rest of the day? And what are we doing there? Are we intentional about that? When you deal with a really good waiter, they are intentional about being pleasant on the front end. Now, granted, they might not necessarily be that way at the core of who they are, but they're putting that out there. So that sets the tone for your interactions. Thinking about that and thinking about your relationship. Do we do that on a regular basis? Something to think about. Lessons learned from really good waiters. Next thing, and I made some notes here. I usually don't make notes, but I made some today. Another thing about a really good waiter, and this is the second part, is typically something is given before you ask. Something is typically given to you before you ask. So whether they just automatically bring water to the table or they bring bread or some type of, little, appetizer that's given, something is always given prior to you asking, right? And it's kind of an anticipatory thing. Like you anticipate that you're going to want water, or you anticipate that people are going to want bread or crackers or whatever they bring to the table, some chips and dip, whatever it is. People tend to want that on a regular basis, but they tend to give that to you before you ask. So it's not like I have to ask for, where's the bread, or, hey, I'd like a little water before we get started. they anticipate that and they bring it to the table, whether you want it or not. They're offering you something on the front end without asking. And so when I think about that and I think about my relationship, or when you think about your relationship, fellas, ladies, whoever's listening out there, do you serve in a sense of giving something before it's asked for? Do you kind of try to anticipate what's needed? Do you anticipate what they would like? And do you go above and beyond and make that happen? Again, lessons from really good service at restaurants or a really good waiter. And I think we can utilize that in our relationship, set the tone with the greeting. But then on the flip side of that, afterwards, are we bringing something to the table that wasn't asked for? But it's a value add. It's something that it might not be anything humongous, but are we doing that? Are we prioritizing that? Again, lessons learned from a good waiter. Now, I'm not a waiter. But I've eaten out a lot and I, paid attention to it. But I can really denote those that are really good at what they do. And there's something to that we can apply to our lives, right? Because when you think about life, there is an opportunity to learn in every aspect. The world is your oyster. The world is your classroom. And so if you're open to learning, if you're open to gaining from various experiences, you'll always take away something and you'll figure out a way to utilize it in an area of your life that is applicable. So those are 2 points. The next thing that, that I always note from a really good waiter is the fact that, or wait staff, I don't know the proper term. So if I'm using an incorrect term to describe a person who serves at a restaurant as a waiter, then I apologize. No harm intended. Blame it on my head, not my heart. But the thing that comes up with them is they also recognize the right time to bring offers, specials, or to even take your order. So they pay attention. If I've been at restaurants in which they come and automatically, take your order when they kind of know that, it's just lunch and you don't have time. You got to get back to work or to another appointment. But if you're just kind of hanging out and doing your thing, the really good ones know when it's time to back off and to give you a few extra moments before they come and take your order. And so I think that is something that we have to learn in relationships, right? Is the notion of, the right time to present something, the right time to say something. Is it time to kind of back off for a minute and, let things cool off? Or do we just have to follow our protocol and we just get it done by any means necessary? Again, we want to be excellent in what we do. And how can we take a lesson from a really good waiter and apply it to our life or apply it to our relationship, especially leading up to Valentine's Day? Okay. But it's timing, right? They pay attention. They're aware. They have situational awareness. They're very attuned to what's going on. So if they need to, speed things up, they speed things up and they're rolling. If they need to slow things down, they tend to do that as well. And so to me, a really good waiter is one who is very, very attuned to what's going on and pays a lot of attention. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that we need to make sure to do as well in our relationships. What's interesting too, a really good waiter doesn't just take your order, bring your food and then bounce, right? A really good one kind of checks in for feedback, making sure everything is cooked at a proper temperature. Is it, are things appearing the way that you thought they would? Do we need to change anything? I mean, you're checking for feedback. And I think in regards to relationships, a lot of times we don't do that. We don't ask how we're doing. We're just like, hey, no news is good news. They're not complaining. Deuces, I'm ready, right? But the reality is we need to get feedback. We need to get, an understanding. One of the things that a guy, actually a mentor of mine, Craig, his name is Craig Ruffin, but Craig was a mentor of mine for years when I worked for another organization. And one of the things that Craig mentioned to me when I first got married was he told me I need to reintroduce myself to my wife on a regular basis. And when I think about reintroducing myself to my wife, that in essence is kind of updating her on how I am changing and how I'm growing and how I'm evolving. But then it's an opportunity to check in, to get some feedback. Do you like how I'm changing, right? Do you like what you see? And if not, how can I change that? And so those are things that I think we have to do on a regular basis from a relationship perspective. But these are lessons that can be learned from paying attention to really good waiters. You know, and this next one goes kind of hand in hand with the paying attention to timing and kind of being situationally aware of what's popping. But you know, to me, the best waiters and the best waitresses are ones that don't hover, but yet they're always there, right? They're always there to top your water off. Like your water never gets past half full or half empty, however you look at the glass. But and that's something that's interesting, because when we think about our lives with our spouse or with our significant other, you know, do we wait until their glass is always completely empty? And that's a metaphor. I'm not talking about, you know, filling up their glass at the table. I mean, some may do that. But I'm just saying from the standpoint of, you know, life, do we wait until they're completely empty to fill them up? Do we wait until, you know, they're asking to be filled up to take the initiative to top them off, so to speak? And you can take that and put it across a lot of different spectrums. But, you know, it's something that it made me think, you know, how do you approach things, or how do you pay attention? And then how do you respond without it being a dying need, right? So most people change, or most people take action, you know, when something hurts or they're scared, right? That's typically it. And so pain and fear typically are motivators for people to make a change or to do something or to take action, you know, in the moment. But why don't we get there before it's painful, or, you know, I'm scared? You know, and so in regards to like your spouse or your significant other, you know, it shouldn't get to a point in which they're experiencing pain or fear before it literally just, you know, erupts and all of a sudden now you take action. Let's pay attention, right? Guys and girls, we have to pay attention. And you know, it was funny. A buddy of mine had a thing that flowed through on social media not long ago, and it was talking about the concept of happy wife, happy life. Now, every married brother in the world has heard that, happy wife, happy life. But he added something to it. He said, no, it's happy spouse, happy house. And I thought about that. It was interesting because I was like, man, you know, you better keep your wife happy, dude. But then I thought about it, because again, this is not something that I'm just speaking to fellas. It's to ladies as well. You know, we have to be mindful of how we serve each other. And so it goes back to the notion of that really good waiter or that really good waitress who's always there to top your water off, whether you ask for it or not, or unless you tell them to stop. You know, they're always going to make sure that you have enough, and it's not something that you get completely depleted, right? And so the happy spouse, happy spouse, happy house thing really just kind of resonated because, you know, guys, we got to be on our P's and Q's, and we got to serve, and we got to serve well. But ladies listening, y'all need to do that as well. All right. You know, make sure to top off, make sure to add a little bit there so that we don't get empty, because we get empty too. You know, we're not just, you know, this automatically filling vessel, so to speak, that fills up on its own. So we need that as well. But I think it's good that we can pay attention to an example from someone in a restaurant setting and utilize that to, you know, to kind of carry over into our relationships. Again, these are lessons learned from paying attention to really good waiters or wait staff or waitresses in you know, in nice restaurants. You know, initially pleasant greetings. They typically bring you something before you ask for it, you know, something that you may need. It doesn't have to be big, but they bring you something. They wait for the right time. So timing is key. They always pay attention, situational awareness before communicating or giving you an offer. They check for feedback. You know, they always are looking to, you know, gauge how you're feeling about something. And then also they give you space. You know, they don't hover, but yet they always are there to pay attention and, you know, top you off if needed. Think about your life. Think about your relationship and take those principles and insert them in various aspects of your relationship. Think about that. Isn't that interesting? Oh, again, subscribe, and share this video, please. A lot of comments, likes, thumbs up. It's awesome. And then finally, in paying attention to really, really good wait staff or really good waiters in nice restaurants, the one thing that I always note is even before they check their tip and all of that, they always come and thank you for the opportunity to serve. So they thank you for giving them the opportunity to serve you. And for me, that's powerful because it shows that they are prioritizing the service of you. And so when I think about relationships, or I think about my personal relationship, how can I prioritize making my wife feel that it's an opportunity for me to serve her? Now, I get frustrated at times. I mean, we all do. And if we don't get frustrated, you're lying. You're lying through your teeth. But when I come back and really think about it, it is truly an honor to serve her. It is truly an honor because everybody doesn't get that opportunity. You know, there are guys who would love to be in loving relationships and all of that stuff, and they don't have that option, or they no longer have their spouse, or whatever it may be, whatever the circumstances may be. I truly look at it as an honor to serve. And so when we think about our relationships, we also need to be thankful for the honor to be able to serve. And again, you get frustrated at times. You don't want to do it. I know it's hard. We all get there. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. Please believe me. And but we have to really think about having that option or having that privilege of being able to serve. So think about this again. Like, I mean, really take note of some of the lessons learned from really good waiters at, nice restaurants, and how their protocols or how their actions can be, inserted into how you operate in regards to your relationship. And think about how things could potentially, kick off and jump off in the right direction. You dig? But anyway, I appreciate y'all taking a listen here. I just had to drop some thoughts. And as always, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to my podcast as well, Black Fathers Now, on every podcast platform: iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, anywhere you listen, any pod on Amazon Alexa. I think she's going off over there. Alexa, stop. Yeah, that's what happens when you have those voice things in the crib, right? Every time you mention her name, she starts circling and the little blue light pops on. But anyway, y'all subscribe, share this video, and leave some feedback. I'd love to get your feedback. Maybe even leave some feedback as to, what kind of alternative examples have you ever used to learn from, or examples that you've kind of taken from, different scenarios and applied to your relationship. So I'm talking about an example of using, a really good waiter or really good wait staff. But what other examples do you have that we can all kind of learn from and, pick it apart and figure out ways to apply to our relationships? Because at the end of the day, man, we all got to be better. We all got to do better. We should all want to be better and do better. And because life is really about relationships. My fraternity, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, friendship is essential to the soul, right? That's the core of who we are. Friendship is essential to the soul. And, the core of friendship is relationships, right? So when you think about relationships, they are at the core of all of our interactions. And how do we continue to strengthen those? Yes, with, in non-romantic settings, but then with your spouse, like, how do we continue to build, to grow, and to be the best that we can be? Because our kids are watching, and so we have to do our part to be the best versions of ourselves so that we can keep this thing rolling for generations to come. All right. Well, hey, y'all visit IamMikeDorsey.com if you're interested in having me come out and speak to your group, to your church, to your school, whatever. Visit IamMikeDorsey.com. I'd love to connect with you. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.